You know, we probably should have done that when you soaked through the fabric months ago.
It's done now, and now we all have Lysol in our noses.
Good.
You're back, Levi.
Back in the biohazard home.
Yeah. Studio closed down for over a week.
Yeah.
Closed our doors.
You still have all those like sheets downstairs that they have in like those outbreaks.
Yeah, like all the
tarps. Yeah, those
the
are
plastic.
All,
yeah. Yep.
It's a sad state.
All
Not enough
masks.
tarps. We need more tarps.
We need one separating you and us.
All the masks. I'm still like, they said that you could have a cough for up to a month.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
My cough's pretty much done.
It's not, I'm not sick anymore. It's just my lungs are trying to recover.
Yeah, I'm not sick either. I'm not nervous at all.
Okay.
This is just for protection.
If you spray that on me, you're dead.
I'm not going to spray it. What color do you think looks best on me, Ben? I think red. I think that red.
No, I think a dark green.
Not the pink?
Close second. Has to be a fuchsia.
I have heard from various people that pink looks good on me, but
really?
Yeah, I
Pink
still won't do
looks
it.
terrible on redheads.
Apparently it doesn't on me.
Are you sure they weren't lying?
They said it in a believable manner. They'd have to be really
You're a psychopath for me not to tell.
Ben says a lot of things in a believable manner
that
are
Ben.
not true.
We don't
Like
have
what?
those conversations, me and Ben.
Like when you tell me that you're not going to sleep.
That's an easy
Not
one.
sleeping.
That's an easy one.
You know, she says it's in a believable manner, and yet I'm laying down and my eyes are closed and my mouth is slightly open, and she's like, "Oh, are you asleep?"
No,
It's like,
I don't ask
how do you
if
not
you are
know?
asleep. I ask
How do you
if, you're,
not
if you're
know?
going to sleep. Are you going to take a nap?
It's like, how do you not know?
Ben is the weirdest sleeper of them all.
I can fall asleep really fast.
It's uncanny.
Yeah, you can.
It is uncanny. It almost seems fake.
And anywhere, too.
But it's not. I know it's not, but it almost feels that way.
You can fall asleep just about anywhere.
Yeah.
What's the quickest? What is the quickest you've seen him go to sleep?
Oh, this is a sore spot.
Maybe not that story. If there's
No, it's a funny story. I just had energy and I was bored. And so Jamie's tired. She has work in the morning. And I pick up a pillow and just start hitting her with it. And we're both laying, but she's like, "Stop, go to bed. What are you doing?" I'm like, "You want to wrestle?" And I'm like hitting her with a pillow, messing with her. I did this for a while. It was like 15 minutes.
I was so annoyed.
And she's like,
Because
"Stop.
I was trying
Stop
to
it. I'm trying to sleep. I'm so tired." And I'm like, "I'm not tired at all." And finally, I got bored of doing that. And so I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go to sleep." I just fell asleep.
Now, how quick did he fall asleep?
It was almost instantaneously.
Yeah. That's why I thought he was faking it.
I think I punched him or hit him or
Yeah,
something.
you woke me up.
It was like, you better wake up.
And the weird thing is, it's not like he doesn't just like conk out. He conks out into like a deep sleep immedially. Like, he just goes right to the rim like layer of sleep in an instant. It's the most bizarre thing.
You know what's also really, really bizarre? How much sleep Ben requires.
That's also true.
You want to know how much sleep this guy has gotten in the last week? There was one night, 2 nights ago, Ben got 12 hours of sleep at night. He got the same amount of sleep as our 1-year-old child. And at 2:00 in the afternoon, he goes, "Man, I really feel like I need to go take a nap."
Ben is a sleeper.
You know,
And I go, "I'm pretty sure you just got too much sleep. I think you need to be awake for a little bit."
which I disagreed.
He does have sleep tax. There is
do.
the sleep tax.
No, at this
do.
point, no.
Yeah, I do, because Zion wakes me up at night.
Man,
No.
poor Ben. He just needs sleep.
No.
Look
no.
at him. Look at him.
She's like, she doesn't have to deal with Zion anymore. And so she's like, you don't need sleep. I feel fine. I
dealt
plenty of
with
sleep.
Zion for
And she,
14
sits
months.
there and
my
says all this
sweet.
stuff. And I don't get sleep. And then she's like, you've been sleeping all day.
Except during that 12-hour stretch, he slept through the night.
At 12 hours, she found me on the floor. I was playing with Samuel, playing the little puppets we have, like hand puppets.
Uh-huh.
I was just asleep holding a puppet.
Weird.
And I was just on the ground like this.
You know what would have been the creepier thing?
Samuel was on the couch just staring at him.
What would be really creepy is if the puppet was like, "Hi, Sam," and you're like, "Ben," and then he goes, "What?"
Our
Laying in
2-year-old was
Just
watching
floating.
Daddy sleep.
Oh man, if I had Ben's uncanny ability to fall asleep, it would be everywhere.
It
all
is
the time.
handy.
Oh, it's so neat.
Although I do fall asleep for driving, though. So you do trade things off.
That is the trade-off. That is the
you
trade-off.
do trade things off.
Never mind. I'm all right. I'm good.
I was actually really concerned when we were dating and he would like try to drive home late at night.
Oh, don't even get me started. Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Are you sure, Ben? You can do it. I'm fine. I can go home. I'm all right. I'm like,
Next
okay.
thing you know, he's like waking up in the middle of a phone call and you're like, sorry, I fell asleep.
Oh man, back in the day, I would only like if we went home after a certain time, I'd be like, you have to call me on the whole ride home. And so I'd be driving behind him and he'd be like, I'm awake. I'm like, are you sure you're awake? Yes, I'm awake. Then you need to tell me something, talked about something. Okay, I'm driving. What are you doing right now? I'm driving. I'm just like,
Leave me alone. I'm trying to
driving.
sleep.
It was the most stressful thing trying to keep him awake, because there was one time where he actually did kind of I was like, Ben, you were sleeping. No, okay, maybe a little.
Did I tell a story on the pod where I was driving home from work that one day? You guys have heard this story, but I was driving home from Mosier Lawns, and it was a hot day, and I was so tired. I'm like, I'm ready to go home. I was going 55 in the right lane, and all of a sudden, I just hear the rumble strips, like the, and I look up, like I'm like, what? And I'm going 80 miles an hour in the left lane in the rumble strips.
Hey, they did what they were supposed to.
Yeah,
They served
They
their
woke 'em
purpose.
up.
I
They
rolled
woke you
down
up.
my window and like stuck my head out and drove the rest of the way home like that.
They were more useful than most government entities.
Yeah.
they did their job.
Wow.
Well, it worked, and I lived.
My taxpayer dollars actually did something. Wow. I didn't even get to say it. Do you guys want to hear a story?
Yes, please. That's why I asked.
Well, now I don't.
No, I don't. This is too aggressive.
This
The
is-
energy is off.
I'm just not in the mood now. It's just ruined.
I don't know. You're killing the vibe. It's too aggressive. It made me feel unsafe.
You got to send out those good vibes, man. I need to feel the good vibes.
Well, you know what? David also sent out good vibes in this story.
Oh.
So Saul was king of Israel at this point, and he had sinned against the Lord a few times. And so the Bible says that the Lord, his spirit departed from Saul, and he sent distressing spirits to Saul.
Oh, good.
And David got
The Lord
anointed
did?
king. Yeah. David got anointed king. And so then Saul's like getting tormented, and it is like in his mind. And so he's just wigged out enough where his advisor's like, hey, maybe we should find someone to play a musical instrument for you.
I know this one.
And so they're like, well, there's this kid who he is really good at the harp. He also looks really good. We could bring him. Weird detail.
They commented on his looks.
Yeah.
He's good at the harp and he's handsome.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's handsome as a bonus.
I mean, the king doesn't want to see no ugly harp player. I wouldn't.
Don't want no uggo in the king's court.
We got this really great harp player. I mean, just incredible, but he's got a lazy eye. And the king will not stop looking at it.
It's distressing him more.
I can never tell where he's looking. That's horrible.
It is. Sorry with anyone with lazy eyes. We love you.
Your mom.
She actually did have a lazy eye.
I know that's
What?
that's why I mentioned
She
that.
had a lazy eye. Well, that's another story. Let's get back to the. I had no idea.
Sorry, mom.
Sorry, Khaki.
So they bring David in and he plays the harp and the distressing spirits actually leave. And so every time he plays the harp, it plays for him, the distressing spirits leave. And Saul actually, what's interesting about the story too is Saul actually, it says that he loved David and made him his armor bearer. And he was like asking his dad, hey, can he stay with me? I love this kid. And so that's how David got his start in like the court and everything. Like
He's
after
great
he
at
was
playing the
anointed
harp.
king.
I can see exactly where he's looking. This kid's great.
This is way better than the other guy.
The other guy's like, oh.
The other guy was better, but he just couldn't.
Oh, no. That's.
Poor guy.
I know this poor made up guy that we now feel sentimental towards.
I feel bad.
He took his harp elsewhere and became the greatest harp player of all time.
But yeah,
his name was Issachar Harp, and the harp was named after him. Go on.
But it's just an interesting story because, like, I just thought it's interesting how David played the harp and the distressing spirits would leave. It was kind of a weird judgment for Saul.
Sometimes they'd leave.
Yeah.
No, they left every time he'd play. They'd come back, but
because there was a time, if I'm not mistaken, where there was one time where he actually threw a spear at David while he was playing the harp.
yeah, but that was later.
So it did happen.
I didn't want distressing spirits at that point. He was just angry and jealous because he was starting to get tormented by people singing Saul killed 1,000, but David killed 10,000.
10,000.
Okay, so
Yeah.
at that point, it was just straight up jealousy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Whoa, those evil spirits again. They came back. Oopsie.
it wasn't me. It was the evil spirits.
That was during a time where he was starting to spiral. So.
Yeah. His is an interesting story because he really did spiral.
It's a really sad story, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it just makes me sad to like when I read about his story because he had good things going for him and then he spiraled big time.
But that's kind of, doing things your own way. I think you get to see kind of and having that when you don't have obedience towards the Lord and your heart isn't to obey him, you can be in a position that God puts you and still spiral.
Yeah. Yeah. What's really cool about that story too is that is the first or really the only recorded what's it called?
Harp account.
Thank you. It's been a long day. That's the only recorded account of like music therapy in the Bible, which is kind of cool. And I just remember that because you actually told me that when I was looking into potentially getting my master's
Yeah.
in music therapy.
I was like, the Bible already got that. And it's kind of interesting because, the Bible says you enter his courts with thanksgiving or his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise.
Mm-hmm.
So you enter into the presence of the Lord when you praise God. And I think that's why those distressing spirits actually left, because they couldn't actually be in the presence of the Lord when David would play before the Lord, because he was actually playing to the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is already after, or this is, well after the Lord has already done miraculous things in his life. Like he had already slain Goliath at that point.
Yeah.
So,
he was anointed king, and yeah, it was bad news bears for
poor
for
Saul.
Saul after that. Just went bad.
I think one of the worst things to think about too is alternatively, if Saul would have like treated that humbly and like owned up to what he did and succeeded power with honor, be a very different story. Be a very different Saul, wouldn't it?
It would have been a very different Saul. In fact, I think it's interesting because he loved David.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, here's this kid. The Bible says he loved him. And
basically his son's brother.
Yeah, and it was just kind of sad how David also had that relationship, and David's looking to Saul as someone to look up to and to learn from and all these other things, and Saul's chasing him through the wilderness for so long.
Yeah, and even while Saul was chasing him through the wilderness, like David still had, like, he still loved him, you know?
And still had hope things, that Saul would hear him out and things would turn around. Like when he cut his cloak or whatever he cut.
Yeah, his own men were like, hey, we can get him. And he's like, nah.
Yeah.
But they literally had to jump on them, snuck into the camp. And this was after Saul had tried to kill David numerous times, just hunting him down. I think this was after his wife was even taken away from him.
I think so.
Yeah, and David still like honored and respected him.
Yeah, and to the point where he was like, hey, I could have done this. I just want you to know that I don't have evil in my heart. Even after all of that, after Saul chased him down, he's like, I don't want this. I just want to have a relationship with you. I want to be restored back to where I was.
Saul would be like, oh, wow. Yeah. And then he'd like do it for a couple
left.
days.
Yeah,
do it for a couple days. Like,
and then
that David
right
guy isn't
out.
so bad. And then 2 days later, that David guy sucks.
Let's go get him, boys.
Now that I think about it, I kind of hate that guy.
But that's the tormenting spirits too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have those tormenting spirits.
I think at that point, you're just
a grouch.
You've lost all like
a big grouch.
Yeah. You just lost all like sense of like just through offense. You've just let offense just eat you alive to the point where
but even if he did have that change of heart of, okay, I'm not going to kill you, what changed his heart a couple days later?
I think
it's those voices saying, oh, but David did this and David did that and David is going to take your place. He's trying to steal your crown.
Remember what the ladies were cheering? Wasn't for you, buddy.
Exactly.
And his own son.
What do you mean by all those foreskins he brought you?
What was Saul's name? Saul's son's
name?
Jonathan comes up. He's like, that David guy's pretty cool.
I love David. They did love each other.
Yeah.
I like how it almost sounds like a cartoon. Like it's almost like a cartoon. Like you just have this guy getting that freaking David. Jonathan's like, man, David's pretty cool. I don't want to hear it. Goes outside and all the women are like, David. He's like,
just everywhere he turns.
That's what happened within those 2 days of him being like, David's all right.
But Saul didn't have the heart to obey the Lord like David did,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very obvious as things just continued to spiral for him
till he saw the witch.
Yeah,
what's her name? The witch of. Oh, she has such a weird name too, and it's totally escaping me. It's one of those things where you can always remember it because it has such a weird name.
Yeah, look it up. But that's a fun story too because he consults her as a medium.
Look up Saul, the witch of, and it'll come up.
And because he wanted to talk to Samuel and get advice, and she's like, "Oh well, King Saul has banned that in Israel. I can't do that." And he's disguised. He goes to her disguised, and he's like, "Oh, I think he'll be okay this time. You should totally do it." She does it, and then it says that she screamed, and
she wasn't ready for it.
Like it says that she then was like, she screams and goes, "You're Saul!" Like she figured it out all of a sudden, but she was already done doing it. Super weird. But either way, she screamed and it's like, "You're Saul! You tricked me!" He's like, "No, you're going to be okay. I just need to talk to Samuel."
It sounds like a Star Wars planet. I know that.
It's the Witch of Endor.
It was a Star Wars planet.
It was. Yep.
It doesn't have her name though.
I don't think
No,
she
she
I think
didn't.
that was just they just gave the
They
epithet.
just. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It was a Star Wars name.
Yeah, I knew it was a Star Wars name. That's what was bugging me. I'm like, I know this. I freaking know this. The Witch of something or rather.
It's kind of interesting that those kind of arts too were
He
back
was
then.
like, it was the Samuel who was called in.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you're screwed now, buddy.
He's like, why are you calling me? And I don't know if it was the weird part.
That's
is
what's up in the air is if it
was actually Samuel or not, because he responded to him like Samuel and talked to him and even gave him advice or told him what was going to happen. And so I'm not sure if it actually was Samuel or if it was actually a spirit masquerading as Samuel. That's the weird part.
That's a story for another time. We should look into that.
On the next episode of Weird Bible Stories, the Witch of Star Wars? No, the Witch of Endor. Stay tuned.
Do the Bibles have ghosts or is it just a spirit?
I'm Zach Baggins, and this is Bible Adventures.
Yeah, I've always wondered that though, if it was actually Samuel or if it was a deceiving spirit.
Yeah, well, there's probably some research you could do on that one. Probably a
Yeah.
little bit of a deep dive, a little bit of a weird Bible story going on there, maybe a little bit of a next episode thing.
Yeah, I'm sure some scholars have looked into that. Like,
And then you have the scholars who are like, it's just poetry.
It's
It's all
poetry, guys.
allegory. If
Guys.
you truly believe there was a witch of Endor that summoned a spirit, I mean, come on. You're denying yourself the truth in the Bible. It's all allegory.
Guys, come on. Noah's Ark, it didn't happen.
Look deeper. Educate yourself.
Yeah. Educate yourself. Get a master's like I have.
They've got 3 of them on the wall, whole bookshelf.
probably have doctorates actually.
The whole bookshelf full of books they've never read. But boy, there's a lot of them.
Speaking of deep diving into weird stuff,
Yeah.
one of our viewers asked us to look into the Anunnaki.
Ooh.
Oh,
And so
we have engagement.
Yes, I did my research and found stuff.
Very cool.
The Anunnaki are basically a group of deities from the Mesopotamia mythology.
Okay.
And they basically means those of princely blood or the offspring of Anu, one of the two. But they're Anu being the supreme god of the Sumerian panthology.
Did you look at pronunciations?
No,
That's all right.
I
Good
did
enough.
look. I do know Anunnaki is how you pronounce it. So Anu is probably how you say that guy.
What if it's
Probably.
what if it's Anu?
Anu. It probably
I'm
is.
just kidding.
It probably is. The origins of Anu. But it's interesting because they're in like things like the Epic of Gilgamesh and stuff like that. And the Epic of Gilgamesh has a ripoff of the flood. The Genesis Noah account.
Oh, right. I mean, I've read it.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah. Easy stuff. Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
All up in here.
What's interesting about these Anunnaki, though, is there's conflicting theories on it. One guy
So real quick,
made a
just for those who don't know what the Epic of Gilgamesh is. Now, I'm not saying, there's probably some viewers that don't.
It's a very old Sumerian story about Gilgamesh, who was a demigod. Basically, and I'm going to really butcher the summary.
Okay.
So, from what I remember of it, he was a really powerful king,
Okay.
wanted eternal life, went to a guy who was around before the Great Flood, which I forget the name
That they gave it.
that they gave him, but it's Noah. Talks to him, and he tells him about a fruit that would give him eternal life. Yada, yada, yada. He doesn't get it. there's a bunch of stuff that happens. He makes friends with another demigod that tries to kill him because the gods were angry at him. And he, goes back and basically tells the Sumerian people the story.
Okay.
Of like this flood that happened. But it had a lot of parallels, very similar parallels to the Genesis account.
So like history, fable, like a little bit of both? Or
Yeah.
just straight up fable?
People have been saying it's fable, but recently people are like, actually, it might be real.
Okay.
And I could see it being real. Gilgamesh being a Nephilim.
Yeah, I could see that.
And, obviously recounting, hearing about the story of the flood, things like that. And so, I mean, there's a flood account in literally any mythology you read. There's going to be a flood account. There's going to be some kind of flood account there. Even in the Anunnaki, there's like a great cataclysm and stuff. There's some parallels that they have. One guy made it popular in the 1970s when he wrote the Earth Chronicles, which he proposed that the Anunnaki actually were extraterrestrials that came, aliens, that they came from Nibiru, a planet called, you can put that on, yeah.
Mine too, this sounds right.
Yeah, this is a conspiracy.
There we go. That feels good. I feel safe. I feel good. I feel secure. The government waves are not getting in.
Yep. No 5G in your brain.
Wow. I feel like I can think clearly. I'm becoming self-aware for the first time in 20 years. It's all making sense now. The waves, I see them. This is what I've been blocking out.
I've become awakened.
Blue, red, purple, and the Anunnaki? All right, so what are the Anunnaki?
This guy theorized that they were aliens
Okay.
from a planet called Nibiru.
Yeah.
And they came to Earth 450,000 years ago to mine gold and use genetic engineering to create humanity as a slave race.
I'm looking at pictures of the Anunnaki. These things sound weird.
They're basically big people, like big humans.
So Prometheus.
Like giants?
Not like, they're like more giant Nephilim size, not like.
Well, now I'm kind of
Towering
wondering if the whole
giants.
Prometheus movie was based on this. I could totally see it happening.
But and his kind of, I guess, mythology of it, and him reading the sinew form, the tablets, they're called sinew forms.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said that they came down. They made humans as a slave race to mine gold that they needed because they were depleted on Nibiru, and so it's a whole mythology. Like I watched an 1.5-hour video about it on the Y-Files, and it was a lot. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh.
From the planet Nibiru. That was before they got into the war with the gray aliens.
Pretty much.
Before the reptilians finally got involved. But finally the Anunnaki were victorious and created the human slaves.
Yeah.
That's where the Stargate comes in.
Yeah. Mainstream archaeologists, though, and historians, they kind of reject his interpretation of it, and they say that he misinterpreted the sinew form text. That's kind of their kind of origins. You get two kind of ideas, one of them being aliens, one of them being actually the mythos of the ancient Sumeria.
Bro, there's a lot of people that like cover the Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki's a huge topic.
This is like something that I didn't know. I mean, I've been out of conspiracies for a fat minute, but holy cow.
It's a huge topic. Well, it gets even weirder because the Anunnaki are also credited kind of giving humans knowledge and forbidden knowledge. And so that's how they say it was actually the Anunnaki who built like pyramids and things like that. And that little pine cone thing, like if you look at different, not inscriptions, like where they draw
different illustrations.
Yeah, they draw on the stones and crap. I can't.
Like
hieroglyphics?
Yeah, stuff like that, hieroglyphs and things like that. I couldn't think of the name. If you look at those, like hieroglyphs and stuff, you see like
he has trouble saying it too.
Yeah, I know. Anunnaki with pine cones like what looks like pine cones that represent like knowledge and things.
The forbidden fruit.
Yeah, kind of like that. And so
I can just imagine this like group of people are just eating pine cones.
These are the Anunnaki blessed us with these.
well, the pine cone, they would actually use it in like some ancient Mesopotamian purification rituals where they would put water on it and then, you know, shake it out when like sprinkle water on people.
Yeah.
But
Just regular stuff.
Just regular stuff.
Yeah.
And but they're credited to giving the kind of this knowledge to people. And so it reminds me of like the Watchers, how they came down and like mated with people, made Nephilim, but also were, according to the book of Enoch, giving people knowledge and forbidden knowledge. And so it parallels, the Anunnaki really parallel a lot from the Genesis account, where it's these deities, these spirits that basically come down and interact with humans in different ways.
So when do the Greys come in?
I've seen so much about that too. We can talk about those later.
The intergalactic war.
Yeah.
Well,
Hollywood has been warning us for years.
We'll
Hiding.
need to put that picture up when we talk about it.
Which one?
The one
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
That explains. Yeah.
We'll have to put it up right here.
See, it's weird because Hollywood does like to hide things in plain sight, but I feel like whenever they try and hide stuff like this, it's more just a matter of muddying the water.
Yeah.
It's trying to find alternatives to the truth.
Well, I think like stuff like the Anunnaki and stuff, people have taken like saying, oh, it's extraterrestrial stuff. It's just muddying the water, trying to, you know, throw out different deceptions.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have the Genesis account, the accurate account, and then you have all these others like,
You mean the allegories?
yeah, these are allegories.
It's all poetry.
And you have, then you have like different races and different people, like the Mesopotamia area and things like that, hearing these stories and then kind of having their own adaptations to it.
Right.
What's interesting though about the pine cone is you see it like again in a bunch of different, and this isn't just like, this is an Egyptian iconography and like, this is in Mesopotamia. It's in different like
Shoot,
races
taking
and
pine cones for
cultures.
granted.
Yeah, races and cultures throughout history that
Really?
don't have any context with each other. Have a lot of them have that iconography of the pine cone.
So the pine cone actually is like a thing.
It is a thing, and it's really weird because it pops up everywhere, and it's typically always representing knowledge or like a divine type symbology. Enlightenment. Yeah.
A pine cone.
Mm-hmm.
Where have I been during all this?
I don't know.
You know what's really
I've really
interesting?
gone down this rabbit hole. Go ahead.
What's really interesting is it looks similar to, I think it, and I haven't obviously done the research on it, but I think it is supposed to be the forbidden fruit because it also looks like the fruit in the book that your parents got for Samuel.
Yeah.
For the garden.
Yeah. And it very well could be.
That's going to be really weird if the pine cone ended up being the forbidden fruit.
Well, it's
Right.
not like
It's not like an actual pine cone, but
actual
people
pine
call it because
cone.
that's what it looks
it
like.
kind of looks like one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll pass my phone. You can see it.
and then here's what's really weird. And this is where we're going to get into some conspiracy and different things about it. You see it in like, again, different cultures, different ones have this iconography. Then the Catholic Church
Oh my gosh.
has this iconography in a bunch of different places as far as the pine cone.
You're
Really?
absolutely kidding me.
I'm not. It is really weird. So there's a pine cone fountain in the Vatican, and it contains a massive bronze pine cone statue about 8 feet tall, and it dates back to ancient Rome.
Where have I been during all this? Is the weirdest conspiracy theory I've heard in a while.
Yeah, and so this, they believe, like some believe that it symbolizes enlightenment and connection to
there it
human
is. You're
and
right.
divine. The Pope also has a ceremonial staff, the papal.
I'm seeing it
papal
right
staff,
now. I'm seeing it right now.
and it has a pine cone like design near the top of it.
What is this? And you know me, like I used to dig around like all these weird theories. Is this more like of a recent one?
I don't think so. This has been
I doubt it. This
going
looks like it's
on
been going on for centuries.
for a while.
Wow, they completely went under my radar.
There's and some people even say like the aspergillum that they use for sprinkling holy water is kind of like that pine cone thing. And which is weird because, again, that's kind of like the ancient Mesopotamian purification rituals.
That is
and this weird. Like black magic and stuff like from Egypt of all their mysticism and stuff. And so like these Anunnaki are really credited with bringing like these mystical things and enlightenment and all these different things to humanity. And you even see it in the Catholic Church where, you know, they're very much maybe not very much, but there's some intertwining there, would appear to be.
That is so weird. So what does the pine cone, like, what is the origins of that? Is it just the Anunnaki brought an object that resembled a pine cone, and then from then on?
It's basically a representation of enlightenment. And so you see that, like, again, and you can look like South America, like these from, you know, being apart centuries, like civilizations have been apart from each other for centuries in different locations and everything.
So there's no like real known origins of it because it's just everywhere.
That is so
they have this pine
weird.
cone, or they have these like Anunnaki like beings that are giving them enlightenment, showing them knowledge and things like that. So
super duper weird.
It is.
I've never heard of this.
It is crazy weird. Like the more you look into it,
you already know. I mean, when I get home, I'm gonna be like pine cone rabbit hole.
Well, the more you look into it, the more it's just like, oh my gosh, like Göbekli Tepe and all these different like ancient temples and things like that all have like this stuff that kind of surrounds it with this knowledge and this forbidden knowledge.
Perhaps I judged the closet guy too harshly because this is wild. The freaking pine cone that's like subverted culture. What in the world is this?
And yeah, so there's all this.
Never look at a pine cone the same way again.
But again, it kind of is really. I find it interesting because, you know, if you look at the Bible and you read the Bible, and this is why we're talking about, because this stuff is out there, it's floating around. Like, as a Christian, how, you know, you see this information, what do you do with it? And it comes back to what the word says about these things, where we do know that these angels came down. We do know that these things, you know, there was a fruit of the knowledge of good and evil.
What if they were trolling? What if they were just trolling? What if like these like angels were like, oh yeah, here, like just show them this and tell them it's the symbol of like wisdom or something. He's like, yeah.
You know, it's probably a deception.
Hey guys,
sure
this is really crazy. Look at this.
Yeah. So you have stuff, you know, all this stuff that
tinfoil back on.
Right, get your tinfoil back on.
Yeah, this is crazy. Right?
Don't want the government getting into your brain.
They're like, they know about the Anunnaki. Do they know about the pine cones? They know about the pine cones.
There it goes.
See.
But it's just interesting the parallels I see, at least with, you know, the pine cone, the enlightenment and stuff, and the knowledge of good and evil. Now, whether it is they're just retelling of what happened of Genesis, or it's actually like they've probably had these encounters with these watchers or these demonic entities that have given them knowledge, they've used to, you know, do crazy things like build the pyramids, which we still don't know today how they've done it. The pyramids
we don't have technology to match it.
The pyramids are an incredible feat that we don't know how it happened, what happened, and a lot of these different monolithic structures that we have throughout the whole world. They're so precise, cut so well. Some of them are just in places that you would have, like, there's no quarry there that you could have actually done it with. It's all really just insane.
Well, you see, we're figuring out.
So they had some kind of technology and knowledge back then on how to do those things that we don't have anymore.
Well, right, because they figured out back then, you know, we have quantum computing now, but they had pine cones back then. All right, now, like, they had already figured out all that they needed to know. Like,
now, some people do theorize that that AI is actually an old technology from the watchers or Anunnaki and stuff.
Turns out the big breakthrough is they just studied pine cones to create it. They're like, it's all here. It's all in this single pine cone. Every bit of this, we can create the perfect being with this.
So
pine cones, the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Is it happening? Like, what?
And you could go into like
It's like melting me right now. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I could tell it's melting you a little bit.
Pine cones.
Well, that's just like what people call it as far as the iconography. This is what closely like you can resemble it.
Absolutely, because I mean, you look at the thing from the Vatican or whatever that statue. It's a pine cone.
Yeah,
I never had heard like you go. You know me. You know my history. You know that I've gone down so many rabbit holes.
Right.
It's like way too many.
I'm kind of happy that I know something you didn't. I knew about this before even it was presented. Like, hey, you should talk about this. Like, I knew about this and had looked at it a little bit already. So I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Weirdest thing.
I'm glad I know something you didn't.
Well, we have to do the dark history of chestnuts next.
Right.
And then after that, acorns.
But yeah, again, it's just really weird. Like the iconography, again, you're seeing it through Mesopotamia, Egyptian, Greek, and like I said, Christian or Catholic tradition, where you see some of it happen where it's like, this is weird. And why is it intertwined into everything? Why is it intertwined into enlightenment and all these different things? And
see, everyone was, all those, atheists are circle jerking over the Da Vinci Code, right? But that's low effort. That's like low P's considered too.
the Da Vinci Code was such a sham.
Oh, it's a sham. But the pine cone conspiracy.
Yeah, that's where you get it.
That's where it's at. That's the high IQ stuff right there. Yeah. But I mean, the weird part is, like, I'm joking, but I looked it up. It's there.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you go down the rabbit hole, people connect it with a lot of weird stuff in the world.
So
like,
bizarre.
They connect the Anunnaki with a lot of weird stuff that happens in the world or that has happened in the world. And
when I go walking out in the woods, anytime I see a pine cone, I'm gonna be like,
should I eat that and be enlightened?
The whole thing was just all throughout history. It's always just been like these evil entities tricking humans with pine cones. You had the snake, Satan. He comes in, he's like, "You should eat that," and he's like, "It looks like a pine cone. Do it. You should eat it. It's really tasty. Trust me. It doesn't look that appetizing. It's good. Trust me, I know." After that, you had fallen angels. They're like, "Give us wisdom," and they're like, "Just show them these. They don't understand them." Have this. What is it? A pine cone.
Yeah.
Is it a puzzle? It's puzzling.
But, people are connecting, aliens with interdimensional beings now. That's the biggest, most popular theory. Like, it's kind of like
that call that happened.
It's kind of gone away, like, from, oh, these are extraterrestrial to these are interdimensional. They live in our oceans type of thing.
Oh, live in the oceans now?
Mm-hmm.
It's really bizarre because, again, you listen to that caller, the Art Bell caller. I mean, he back in the day was calling this stuff. It's very odd.
Yeah. And so now more and more people are like, well, maybe these aren't what we thought. Like, aliens aren't what we thought they were. They're more like these Anunnaki. And so that's kind of more the popular theory now.
From the ocean?
Yeah, ocean is big popular theory now because they've seen a ton of crafts go or light orbs go in and out of the ocean, things like that.
Sounds like too many Lovecraft fans.
No, they have a bunch. Like, if you look at it, there's a bunch of weird stuff that surrounds the ocean and and UFOs.
There's some weird stuff.
There is. I've looked at it.
I've been out of the conspiracy scene too long.
You have. I feel weird now because I'm like teaching you.
And the thing about oceans too is, like, we've only explored, and I'm just going to throw a number out there. It's not the exact number, but we've only explored like less than 25% of the ocean.
Very little bit of it.
Like, I want to say it's probably like 10% of the ocean or something like that. Like, we don't have the technology to explore all of it right now because it just gets so deep and it like combusts.
Right. Or like your controllers aren't that good.
It's easier to explore space than it is the ocean, actually, which is really Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because space doesn't exist.
You believe in space?
Welcome. Get on my level, Jamie. I might not know about pine cones, but I know the mystery of space. All right.
Do you believe in space?
Next
I'm
time
a
we get
flat
to do,
earther.
So that's a very, very intro, very summarized, very gimped version of like Anunnaki
Oh, you already know what I'm doing when I get
and
home.
pinecone weirdness that surrounds it too, enlightenment and things like that. Like if you'll be down that rabbit hole for weeks.
Oh, you'll know something's wrong. My hair's all messed up, and I'm like, pine cones, Ben. There was something to them.
Yeah.
Look to the pine cones. If I disappear, look to the pine cones.
And I think that's what, like, mentioning it and talking about it, that's the things I want to avoid. Like, you can look at the Word of God and see what is actually true. And a lot of this stuff is there to muddy the water, to confuse people. And it's fascinating for sure. And the Bible, but the Bible does talk about, the knowledge of good and evil, like the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. It talks about these fallen angels coming down, interacting with people. That's not a new thing. And the demonic manifestations of those things aren't new. So it's not something you should be like making new theology out of.
So don't get stuck in that rabbit hole, Levi.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't ask ChatGPT what the Bible says about pine cones, but there are 2 verses.
Are there?
You can do your research after our podcast.
But it's in Nehemiah, and the other one's in Isaiah.
Well, what does it say? What does the Nehemiah say?
Nehemiah, let me see. I was closing out. Refers to gathering branches from trees, including pine, to make booths for the Feast of Tabernacles.
I don't think that's.
I wouldn't.
It's
I
very
wouldn't use
loose.
that.
Very
That's
loose.
not pinecone at all.
What are you doing, ChatGPT? Wow.
Time to go to Grok 3.
If you can't make something up, then don't say it at all.
Yeah.
If I don't get crazy pinecone conspiracy, I don't want to use you.
I don't want to hear about it. Yeah, you should look up, and maybe we'll go into a deep dive too of like everything like they say is at the Vatican and stuff like that. 'Cause,
Oh,
like, in
dude,
the
there's
Vatican
some
archives,
weird
people
stuff.
talk about like a.
Have you seen that sculpture? I thought it was made up. Like when I saw the initial picture of the sculpture behind the Pope, there's like this really creepy, demonic looking sculpture that they have like in one of the places, and like the Pope's sitting in front of it. I'm just like, there's no way that's real. It's totally real. Yeah,
I was just talking about the weird things they have, like they say at the Vatican they have a device that you can look in the past with and like see the past, which is super weird. I'd have to look into it.
This seems kind of asinine.
We've
already lived it.
Yeah. It's a
It's called your memory. That is the real device. It was within you all along. It was up here.
You've been enlightened by the pine cone.
all their crazy stuff is actually just real basic.
People are making it way more than what it actually
I've heard
is.
there's a device here to walk on water.
Not on water, in water. What you do is you dive down, and instead of your legs, you use your arms, and you sort of create a motion like this. And before you know it, you've crossed the water.
And you just look at the guy like,
Now eat this pine cone, and you will understand it. Let it teach you. There are layers to the pine. You are but on the top layer of the pine. I am all the way down here somewhere.
As he takes a bite.
I can be anywhere I want. How? Well, you see, I close my eyes.
And I imagine.
Say France.
France?
I am there.
What do you call this?
Teleportation.
I like it so much.
Well, what about Budapest?
Hang on.
Opens up like a atlas and he looks at a couple pictures, closes it.
I am there.
That would actually be really, really funny, though.
all their devices are just real basic stuff.
I will teach
they've
you
mystified.
how to see.
Well, how do I see?
Close your eyes. Okay? Open them. There.
But I'm just seeing exactly.
But I thought this was, we could do some, like, see this and see it through the spirit realm and all this other stuff. I never said that. Who told you that? You've been on the internet too much.
We're simply here to teach you to see.
That simply doesn't exist.
I love it.
That would be really funny, though. Like, really, really funny.
Just going on all these spiritual journeys to find out it's all just very regular. Just very, very regular.
Oh, that's funny, though. That'd be good. That'd be a funny story. Like, I don't know, like a funny skit or a funny movie.
Almost like it's not real.
He goes, oh, the spirit realm. Yes, let me teach you how to do that. Here, let me I sit back like this.
Yeah.
Close my eyes.
Yeah.
And you're just staring at him like, should I wake him up?
I was there. he does. He said, he goes, I'm back.
You mean you were in the spirit realm?
Yes. It looked a lot like high school. And I kept getting bullied by the teachers.
It was so embarrassing.
You know, I think I'm gonna go. This temple wisdom, it's just not doing it for me.
Wait. We play cards every Sunday.
All right.
I'm out.
That'd be funny.
It's like that SpongeBob. All right, I'm going to head out.
Don't forget to leave a tip.
Tipping culture is outrageous.
You walk out and there's a little iPad set up. How was your enlightenment today? 10%, 25%, 100%.
Let's be real. They wouldn't call it a tip. They call it a tithe. Don't forget to drop in your tithe.
Oh my.
Oh, well, you guys want to hear another funny, weird story?
Gosh, can
You
we?
have more than one story?
Well, yeah. This one's real life, and it is just, it's so sad. It's funny almost.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
But
also,
it's
Denver
really
Airport.
sad.
Denver Airport
We
is
will
in a
get
future
into that.
episode.
So there was a top Billboard song, like number 4 recently in the gospel arena.
Okay.
And in the gospel worship, you know, CeCe Winans is up there. And you have this chick called, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Nori.
Good enough.
And she sings a song called Change in Your Name. And you listen to the song, you're like, wow, this is very like generic Christian music.
Like if you've heard one, you've heard them all in this song.
Yeah.
Like
And,
this is definitely an industry standard song.
But it made
Okay.
made the top 4 on the gospel chart. And it is not a Christian song. It is a song to Allah. Well,
It's a song.
I take that back.
It's all paths lead.
It's
to.
all paths. She made a song to everyone could worship to. And worship any God you choose to worship to. So it's called Changing Your Name. I started reading through some of the lyrics when we listened to the music video, and it was horrible. Just music-wise, I hated it.
No, it's so good.
But it's like, you know, through all the mistakes, you love me the same. No, I don't desert you. I'll never desert you. You are the one. And so it's just so ambiguous.
It doesn't step on toes.
It doesn't step on
It's a
toes.
very
It's just
safe
super
worship song.
ambiguous to where like it tricked a lot of Christians to putting it in their worship playlist.
All right, it either tricked them or, you know, again, I'm not going to say for sure, but like people say, I like the term industry plant. How they're like, oh, that's an industry plant show, or this is an industry plant actor. You know, it's like it is a thing that is propped up by the industry to be popular, and I feel like this could be that.
Unfortunately, I don't think so.
Like this is
Maybe,
the most
but
generic sounding.
It's like, you know, I want to change in your name. I want to change. And then this is what makes me think, though, it was maybe written by even AI or someone who is religion adjacent.
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense. And if you took the time to like just listen to it or read through like the lyrics or listen to it once, you'd immediately go, this is theologically incorrect and very strange. She says, fill me with your fire, take me higher and higher, anything you require. And you're like, that sounds like an AI, like just the most generic thing someone could say in a worship song that you hear all the time.
Yeah.
But then the next part is, give me all your glory. I am here at your mercy. I will never be worthy. And I'm like, that's weird. Why would you ask God for all of his glory when he doesn't share it?
Yeah, that's weird.
And it's because it's not Christian. It's not biblical. It's not
right.
Theologically sound at all. And, give me all your glory. And then saying, well, I'll never be worthy. So Christ's sacrifice wasn't enough for you. And basically you're saying Christ's sacrifice wasn't enough to make me holy and righteous before him. I'm not going to be worthy ever. So there's some weird things like that. And people are putting this in their Christian playlists and singing this as a worship song. It's just kind of like,
I really want to
need to stop.
I really want to go to ChatGPT and be like, write me an ambiguous worship song that can be interchangeable for any religion.
It would probably pop up something very similar to this.
Probably, yeah.
But that's, I think, the danger of this, like, it's been
all roads. It's been for a while.
It's been around forever.
Yeah.
All roads lead to God.
Back in the day, you had people actually
theology.
fight Oprah on it, though.
Yeah.
You remember that clip where that lady actually stood up to Oprah and was like, nah, that's not true.
I don't.
Oh, there's actually a clip where Oprah tries to make the argument and this lady stands up and is like, no, like Jesus is the only way. And actually the audience kind of turned against Oprah. And it was the most wild thing because you'd never see that now.
Yeah.
You'd have enough people paid and, well, I won't say alleged, perhaps there are enough people in the audience that would be like, no, sit down.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
But it's kind of this danger of taking in everything and this thing of like, well, all roads lead to God.
Yeah.
When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father except through me.
Right. It's that new age belief that they try and just, it's that inoffensive message.
Yeah.
To just get people in the seats.
Get someone in the seat. Well, if they hear enough of it, they'll come around type of thing when, that's not really what the Bible teaches at all.
It's that feel good message.
And then it mixes in with this stuff like, give me all your glory. And you go, God's not sharing his glory. Now, I've heard worship songs like, let me see your glory. And there's nothing wrong with that. But God's not giving his glory to you.
Right.
And so you're worshiping and you're saying, basically, I want to be worshiped like you. I want to have all that glory. And so I just kind of read through it and stuff. And I was, it has some nice sentiments in it for sure. But that's where I think, Satan comes in, and he twists the truth. He changes certain things and, subtly does things to where, it's not the truth and it's actually demonic.
I will say, if you put these lyrics into Suno, you would probably create the exact same song.
Yeah.
Like I mean, this
style of music too.
This is the most, in a sense, I hope she didn't write this and produce it by herself, because if she did, it is the most cookie cutter sounding thing you've ever heard. Like, it is almost to the point of parody.
Yeah.
It's just like repeating.
It kind of is a parody of actual worship.
Because it's repeating maybe things you've heard offhandedly.
Yeah.
It's weird too, because you don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean to this chick. But at the same time, it's just such a weird thing to hear. Such a flat. Is that the right word?
Flat.
But yeah, it is a very flat sounding song that does not have a lot of meat to any of the lyrics, to any of the meaning.
And again, some of it sounds really nice. Like, to you I surrender. I'll be your defender, which is weird. But because you gave me life, so I'll give you mine. It's yours to define, which is that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it just has enough of that, mixture in it.
Yeah.
Where, well, it's something we all can worship to. I want something everyone can worship to, and they worship their God to, and stuff like that. And it's like, that ain't it.
It's a good way to get money.
It is a good way to get money. And it's a good way to scarily make the top gospel billboard.
I'm still hoping
it worked for.
Yeah, I'm still hoping that's an industry thing. Because they've done it before. Well, allegedly.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I'm just, it just makes me sad because there is on worship playlists, and
right along with Miley Cyrus songs.
The Bible says to rightly divide the word, and it says for us that we really need a love for the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so not having that personal relationship with Jesus and not abiding in his word and not loving the truth and grabbing hold of truth, you can get easily deceived. And this is a good example of something like that, of being easily deceived.
Yeah.
Can you use a secular song for worship?
I know people who have.
I
know people do that.
Biblical?
I would say no, because if you look at what worship is for, it's to worship God, and it's to bring him glory and honor. Having something that wasn't meant for that isn't really going to bring him glory and honor as far as in the space of worship to God. Now, you making a song that isn't necessarily a worship song isn't like sinful or anything like that.
Right.
But if you're using it in the context of coming before the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and there's a certain protocol and there's certain reverence there, that you can't just go to him flippantly with anything and offer up anything and say, this is good for God. Does that make sense? It's kind of like burning it, like when a strange fire in the temple. And so I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
Well, you're not everybody, Ben.
You're not everyone.
I'm going to sing Breaking Benjamin to God all I want.
Oh, gosh.
And then, obviously there's the thing of too, like.
I do like Breaking Benjamin, though. I still think, I do think, I listen to some of the lyrics of the song. I think that I'm not going to, of course, go on record, but I do think that there is I wouldn't be surprised if the dude got saved at some point.
Really?
I really wouldn't. Which I hope he does. Because, there's themes and lyrics in some of his songs, which I'm not going to say like that they're, it's Christian music by any means, but there's definitely a searching there. That's for fair. That spiritual enlightenment. He talks about stuff like that in some of the themes. So.
Yeah, he has that one song dedicated to pine cones.
What?
To pine cones.
Couldn't even get it
Enlightenment.
out. Couldn't even get it out.
Oh. But
also you have to be careful what you listen to, for sure.
You do, because
oh yeah.
Just the way Satan is described in the Bible, people speculate that he was the worship musician. Yeah. And that's why music is so demonically influenced.
What?
In
you mean American music? Right now? At this point in time? Yo. Surely not.
What I just going back to the worship song though, that you brought up, I think it's really interesting that the lyrics ask to share what was the lyrics? Give me your glory. I find that very fascinating because it puts you on that pedestal at that point.
Yeah.
It puts self on that pedestal. And it's just so interesting because it could have been, people probably, not probably, people are worshiping to it. And it's just really interesting because, you're talking about it's you have to be careful about what you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And
because you're speaking those words with you're singing along with it.
Exactly.
Or you're coming into agreement with it too.
It's one of those things that you're going to subconsciously believe those things.
Mm-hmm. You're working it into you.
And if you are asking God to share his glory with you, you're putting yourself on that pedestal. and you're idolizing self at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think our culture has a problem with worshiping themselves.
Well, no, but it's one of those things like it's things like this song that worms its way in. That's why we don't have a problem with idolizing self.
Yeah.
Oh, I was joking. We totally have a problem with idolizing ourselves.
No, I know.
Oh, yeah. I was making sure.
No, I understood that. But what
Okay.
I was saying, what I'm trying to get at is a lot of people don't realize, especially in the Christian community, they don't realize that they have themselves on a pedestal.
Yeah.
They don't realize that they have made themselves an idol.
Yeah.
Right.
Their comfort.
It's a slow cook.
And
It's a
it's
slow cook. And
just
it's
little
a-
things like this that cause us to create ourselves as an idol.
And you can watch this and say, well, what's the big deal? The Bible says you need to have a love for the truth.
Mm.
And if you don't love the truth, you will be deceived. That's the bottom line. If you don't have a love for the truth of God's word, you will be deceived in anything, and like stuff like this, whether it's that or whether it's Anunnaki and, you know, the planet Nibiru and all this other stuff
Pine cones.
where, you know, people talk about, well, I'm actually a star person.
I'm a star
And
child.
A star child. I think
That
it's
is what it's
something like
called.
that.
That's
yeah.
what it's
People
called.
That's what it's called.
actually, yeah.
And you know, you get into these deceptions where like you get so far into something and you don't see anything like wrong with that. So
Well, no, I'm a star child.
yeah,
It's all good. My
it's all
eyes.
good.
I mean, don't your eyes glow red at night? It's just normal for me.
Yeah. So
We pour out our miseries. Speaking
yeah,
of
there's-
good Christian
it's-
songs,
Speaking of oh my god,
there's a lot. You got to be real careful.
You
Sometimes
do.
what you
Even
hear
in the Christian realm, like
yeah.
with people who are
that was on Caleb.
yeah,
That was on Air One. Yeah.
Yep.
There's one song, it's by David Crowder. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but one of the first lines is talking about how Jesus is his friend and he doesn't judge. And I'm just like, that's not biblical.
Well, no one's perfect. And the thing is, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater because I mean, there's
Right.
the
The rest of the song I think is pretty good.
Right.
But it's that one line that I'm like, I can't listen to this song.
No.
I can't listen to it.
It sucks when
Yeah.
you find a good song like that, like it has a good tune, but you just listen to it, you're like, that's not biblical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do have to be careful, like taking stuff like that in, like we talked about. You do have to be careful with that.
Right. And you also don't want to sit there and like, it's weird because it goes both ways in terms of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater because it's like you get those pastors that, and this is kind of a offshoot of it, but you know, you'll have these pastors that before they had their fall had some very spirit filled, you know, right stuff that they were
Mhm.
teaching, and you can listen to it and it's still just as good. And you know, you have musicians that might come up and might kind of have their theology off as they're early on, or you know, at some points they might fix it.
Yeah.
You know, Skillet probably is a good example of that, although I can't think of any times where he was off.
I couldn't tell you.
Skillet's pretty on point. I've seen people get ate up with him though.
John Cooper's pretty
Oh, he's cool.
sharp.
He's cool. I've seen people be like, have you watched his music videos? They're so demonic. They're so demonic. And you watch them and you're like, I don't
know. I haven't seen him.
Listen to his songs. They're so angry. They're so angry.
Just the genre he's in.
It's like, I'm sure that guy's done more to reach people than the people criticizing him. But
Yeah.
you know what it is.
What it is. But yeah, there you do have to kind of like, and you don't have to look for a devil under every rock. And I think that's a trap you can fall into as well. Like, oh, this is, you know, don't look for a devil under every rock. But
No, you'll know. Because I mean,
you'll
even
know,
like,
I just read through that and I was like, you know, it doesn't line up with the word of God.
Yeah.
It doesn't line up with the word of God when you're asking God to give him your, you know, give you your glory, and you will never be worthy.
But you know what? That is why it is so important for you to get into your word.
Yes.
Because there are so many Christians out there who are like, oh, I go to Sunday service and then I worship throughout the week and I get into my Bible a couple times a month.
That's generous.
And it's like,
oh, come on.
you don't know. And it's just like that David Crowder song. Like I like a lot of his stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I like a lot of his music. But you know what? If I if I was not in my word regularly, I may not realize that line is not biblical.
And they can work into your theology.
And then it can work into your theology.
You might say, oh, yeah, I mean, it's in the song. That's a Christian song.
Right. Yeah. I can
take it
trust
for
that
gospel.
song.
Yeah.
I can trust that song because it's a Christian song. I really like listening to David Crowder and, all these different things. And it's like, you have to have discernment, and you can't have discernment if you're not in regular communion with the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't heard that song, but I get the sentiment. It's like, oh, we don't want people to think God's angry and judgy and mad at him.
Right.
But
and that was the sentiment, but that's
at the same time, that's not
biblical.
Also not biblical. There's plenty of time God's getting mad at people.
I'll pull up the lyrics.
Is God mad at me? Maybe. I don't want to get into that right now, but
a nice lighthearted way to end the topic.
Yeah, right.
Is God mad at you? Chances are, maybe.
So it opens up with, I have a friend closer than a brother.
No, I like that song.
There's no judgment. Oh, how he loves me. And it's like, yeah, he loves you. Yeah, he's closer than a brother. Yeah, he's your friend. But he
is the judge of all the earth.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, Jamie. I'll find a song to run for that you like now.
So
I've got a friend.
I do like
closer than a brother.
Yeah, that's what
there is no judgment. Oh, how he loved me. I got a friend.
I haven't heard that one.
Really?
But I don't listen to radio really.
That's true. You don't. I do like the song. It's just that one line that I'm like,
Jamie, what's a song you like? Hurry. Tell me a song you like really quick.
I need to ruin it.
Let me look this up real quick, Jamie. What's a song you love? Hurry, come on.
Well, while Levi tries to figure that out, in a world that is twisted, that it's hard to find truth in anywhere you look, everything's shaky. It's the foundations, going off course. Maybe you're looking around you going, I don't know what to believe. I don't know where to turn. I would encourage you that right now, God is calling you to know him. He's calling you to have a relationship with him because he is the rock. He is the foundation of truth. And if you really want to know truth, you have to know Jesus. And so I would encourage you, the Bible says that those who call on the name of the Lord, they will be saved. And if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus Christ died and that he rose again, you will be saved. And so if you make that commitment to follow after Jesus, it's a matter of going, you know what, I'm going to lay down my ideas, my wants, my desires, and I'm going to do what God says in his word. And I'm going to listen and obey him. If you made that commitment, then I would encourage you to reach out to us. We have material that can help you with your walk with the Lord that you can use to further relationship with him and find truth.
In the shadowed halls of a king gone mad, Saul sits heavy, his spirit clad. David strums the strings, a golden thread. Notes like rivers to calm the dread. The harp hums low, a sacred art, soothing the storm in a tyrant's heart. Oh, the strings cry out, the heavens bend. Anunnaki whispers on the wind. Pine cones gleam where the soul ascends, but the only truth lies in Jesus' words. The watchers came from skies unknown. They say Anunnaki carved their will in stone. Pine cones clutched in hands of old, secrets of the stars worship dressed in cheap disguise, plastic hymns and painted cries, echoes lost to greedy skies. David's truth cuts through the haze, a melody for the ancients of Oh, the strings cry out, the heavens bend. Anunnaki whispers on the wind.